Hello and welcome back. If you've been following along, we are almost done with this Camo Santa stocking, and right now I'm working on the little camo bear outfit and trying to put the bear together. If you missed my other tutorials, I will link the playlist in the description below this video so you don't miss anything. And I'm just showing you the applique stitch right here. It's also known as the whip stitch. We use this stitch a lot in these kits. So I'm going to finish the shirt and then we're going to work on the rest of the body. So when you applique it, just applique the top portion and leave the bottom open. And we're going to work on the face here, and we're going to cut this line. But first we're going to add the little embroidery on the ears. The detail on these kits is very thought out. The designers for these kits do a really good job. The stitch that I'm doing here is the back stitch, I believe. And everybody does the back stitch a little different, so however you want to do it. The look is the same, so I'm just gonna finish this and then we'll double knot it on the back, and then we're gonna assemble the little bear face. Here's the bear face, and I already added the little the satin stitch on the eyes, and then I embroidered the nose and the mouth. The nose is a satin stitch and the mouth is an outline stitch. And we're gonna just piece the pieces together. And then we're gonna stick the little head on top of the body in this slit that I cut out. So it's gonna go like that. And okay, finished the head, and I did stuff the head. And we're gonna insert the body in the slit. And that's gonna keep the neck like, you know, like it's not stiff. So I like to use pins to position my pieces. And then we're gonna attach the head to the back here. And I am using brown to match the head because the brown is laying on top. If the green was laying on top, I would use the green. It looks better that way. And I love that when that happens. Have you ever started stitching and then all of a sudden your thread just kind of like just disintegrates? Yes. Sometimes some of the colors that come in these kits do that, and it's not one specific color, but that's honestly one of the reasons why I double up on my beads and sequins, is because of that. So fun times. Luckily I didn't get too far, so I was able to recover. But it's hard when you're in the middle of a stitch and all of a sudden your thread decides to break apart. That's always fun, right? I'm gonna take the pin out. Now that I don't need it anymore, and I'm just gonna keep appliquing the head on. Okay. I'm going to add one more stitch here, and I'm going to put my knot here. And we're not going to applique the front so that we can move the head up and down. Oh my goodness. String getting caught everywhere. So I'm going to tighten my double knot, and then I'm going to hide my thread back here somewhere. And we're gonna move on to, I believe, the hat. And oh my gosh, okay. The hat is cute, but it's a pain in the you-know-what to put on. So I went ahead and did the satin stitch and then the outline stitch on the hat, and now I'm just appliquing the two pieces together, and it's gonna sit, you know, like those paper hats that you can fold and sit on your head. It's kind of like that, but a little bit more complicated to put on, because you're trying to like make it look like it's sitting on his head without it like looking like it's squished into his head. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna jump forward here a little bit and show you what I mean. Okay, so I have that done, and now we're going to add it on his head. And notice how I didn't tie it off yet. So I'm gonna just place it on him, and then, yeah, it's a little finicky. Use pins if you need to. I know I do. I use pins all the time. And I'm gonna slowly applicate this hat on. It's just a little finicky because the pieces are so small. And if you have bigger hands like myself, it's a little hard to maneuver. And I'd just like to tuck in the stamped felt underneath. And if for some reason it shows, I just use the tip of my needle and kind of rub it off. It rubs off fairly easy. Okay. Yeah, okay, so the front, I want it to look a certain way, so I start on the front so I can position it how I want, and then I can just applicate the back. Because honestly, nobody's going to see the back, so that doesn't really matter. Okay, removing the pin, and I can actually finish the hat now. And the hat is not stuffed, so we're just placing it on top, like so. Okay, putting on the legs now, and there's little stamps where you can put the legs so you know where to put them. There's the first one. I'm trying to match it to the picture. That's what I'm doing here. So I have to pin it in place so it doesn't move too much, and then I just kind of position it how I want, and then we'll just applique the leg on. I sped this part up because it's just kind of rinse and repeat, but I know that a lot of you that watch my tutorials like to see it all the way through. So I sped it up for you guys, and hopefully it's helpful. And notice how the other leg, the stamp is on the back. I know my finger's covering it, but you can kind of see the stamp back there. So that's where the other leg is going to go. And then the arms, I just did this off camera just because it's the same rinse and repeat. Just find where the stamps are, and then use the picture as a reference. And the sleeves are the same as the shirt. Make sure they're open. And then this, I'm going to stuff. I think I'm stuffing it. Yeah. So, I'm not stuffing that. This is for the flag, of course. The little teddy bear is holding the flag. And the flag, I used a pipe cleaner for the inside of the pole part of it where he's holding it. I don't remember if the instructions say to use a pipe cleaner or not, but I would highly recommend using one because they are much more sturdy than just using stuffing, and you can actually maneuver it any direction that you want, which is nice too. So you don't have to worry about stuffing falling or, having it uneven or anything. I use pipe cleaners a lot, especially for small, narrow spaces like this or stuff that's like hanging. Okay, so I just jumped ahead and I'm showing you the flag finished. It's really simple to do the flag, so I figured I didn't need to show you how to do it, but I will show you how to attach it because that is a little bit more complicated. I am using pins and going really slow, and I'm using yellow to applique it because I'm going into the pole, and the pole is yellow. So we don't want the white to stick out, so I figured yellow would be best to use. And so far, I think it works best. So take your time on this. It's a little finicky. Again, if you've got bigger hands like myself, it's a little bit harder to hold, but otherwise you shouldn't have too much of an issue. A lot of patience here. But it's worth it because it's so cute when the little bear is holding this flag on the stocking. I've had people ask me all the time what stockings I would recommend for what levels, and all in all, most of these stockings are really, to be honest, they're not that beginner friendly. A lot of it is just, there's a big learning curve. And once you make a couple of them, then the learning curve definitely shrinks for sure. So if you're brand new to this Bucilla stocking deal, don't be too intimidated, because when I first started making these, I had no idea what I was doing and I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot. So I was like, you know what, there aren't any like videos out there really showing you how to make these. And I've made plenty of tutorials. If you guys have seen any of my videos, I have tons of different types of tutorials, and I do plan on making more. But there's just not a lot of information. And as you can see behind me on the table, the instructions are a lot. There's a lot of words, and when I first looked at this, I was like, what did I get myself into? This particular stocking, however, I believe is on the intermediate side. I don't think it's too hard, but I also do think there are a couple of elements that are a little difficult. Putting the bear together was definitely one of those difficult moments where I had to sit and go, okay, how does this work? There's just a lot of components in this little guy. So depending on your level of craftiness will depend on the type of stocking that you start with. And the simpler, the better, to be honest. Even just by looking at the picture, you can tell how hard it's going to be. If you see a ton of little tiny things, if you're not very good with beads and sequins, or if you're just, if the French knots or the satin stitches scare you, you don't have to use those stitches. I've seen people replace those stitches with other ones that look similar, or I've even seen people use felt to replace the satin stitch, so they didn't have to do that stitch at all. It's all up to you. So that's another great thing about these kits, is that really, yes, you have a list of steps, as you can see on the table, but that doesn't mean you have to abide by those exactly. I've seen people replace beads and sequins with French knots. I've seen people replace colors. I've seen people switch out colors. I've seen people switch out faces. I've seen some amazing stuff, and you can get really creative with these kits. So don't be afraid to make one of these if you've never done one before. And with that, this little bear is done, and he's so cute holding the flag. Oh my goodness, so cute. Now it's time to add this little guy to our stocking, and there's not really a stamped out area to put him. You just kind of have to eyeball it. So I am using the picture, as you can see on the table, as a reference guide to figure out where to position him. And I am just doing a couple of tack down stitches. And by couple, I mean probably 20. It really depends on how secure you want this guy to be. So I want him to be pretty darn secure, but I still want him to look like he's sitting on top of the drum and he's not like squished into it. So yeah, you can just tell I'm just going around the outside, just placing stitches where I feel like I need them. And then I do a couple of tack downs on his head just so that he doesn't move around too much. A lot of the tack downs are on his bum though. I really wanted him to stay on that drum. So if you notice where the stocking lines up in the back, I do add stitches right there. There's no one way to do it. So if you feel like you need more or less, feel free to do whatever you need to do to get that bear onto the stocking, and you feel confident that he won't run around or move around too much. So I'm just like, okay, I probably should add stitches back here because I want him to stay there. I don't want him to completely stick out or like, you know, feel like he's gonna fall over. Okay, I sped this part up a little bit because it's just me putting tack down stitches. But I wanted to actually show you where I'm using the tack down. I'm using the same color thread for each piece. So the jacket is green and the bear's bum, I used brown. Those are the two main colors that I used, just so that they blend in with him and they don't like stick out unnecessarily. I wouldn't put a yellow stitch on top of his leg because the yellow would stick out and it wouldn't look too great. It wouldn't look like it was naturally put there. So I just make sure you match the colors with whatever felt is on top of your project. Even if you're not working on this particular stocking, any stocking that you're working with, make sure you're using the same color thread as the felt that lays on top. And try really hard to not sew through any stuffing. I've made that mistake in the past, and it's not a huge deal, but it does take away the 3D effect a little bit. You can kind of tell. There we go, cute little bear. Okay, I want to show you the components of this horn real quick. So there's a lot to this horn, and I just want to show you how to put it together because the instructions weren't exactly the best. So there you go. And then once your horn is done, you can stick it right there in the little toy sack. And I did tack it down right here. And there is also a candy cane that goes next to it. So here's the candy cane. The stripes are a satin stitch. And if you need a tutorial on that, I've got so many tutorials. You can just look at another tutorial. I've done so many. I don't want to do. I didn't want to do another one. This is me stuffing the sack of toys and candy, and I believe the instructions say to keep it open, but we're gonna close it. I'm just double knotting my thread here. And we're gonna close it. I could be wrong. I'm not really looking at the instructions right now. I believe we're supposed to close it. So I'm closing it. Okay, so I sped this part up a little bit because I didn't realize how long this video was gonna be. So I'm gonna shorten it just a little bit so you're not sitting here just watching me do this. Although I know that some people like to watch me just kind of do my thing. So I'm doing an applique stitch or a whip stitch here. And I'm kind of using the spaces of the sequins to place my stitches, and sometimes it'll get caught on the beads, and that's, you know, that happens. So just be gentle. Try not to tug too hard because I have actually broken thread doing that, and then I've had to go back and rebead and or just like start over on the, or like knot it the best I can and then like restart the stitch, and that's a pain too. So be gentle around beads and sequins when you're using the applique stitch. So as I'm sitting here doing the tab for when you hang your stocking when it's done, I was remembering someone asking me about hang tabs, and sometimes when I feel like it's necessary, I will double up on felt for not the name tag, but for the hang tab, just because sometimes I just don't feel like it's just gonna be sturdy enough to hold all the stuff. So in this case, I did double up on the felt, and it doesn't really matter what color you use. The red felt that you see here is from the kit, and the white is something that I added. And I felt like the contrast was going to be cute, so that's why I did the red and the white. You don't have to do that. You could do red on red, or you can even change the color out entirely and do a different color. Yellow would look really cute too. It's all up to you. But very, very rarely I will find a kit with a specific color felt that's just too thin. And in this case, the red was just a little too thin for me. So I added the white on the back. And this is completely optional, by the way. I started lining my stockings, gosh, a few years ago. And I got it off another person. I don't remember. It was probably on Facebook. I saw someone say, hey, you should probably line these so you can protect your stitches. And I'm like, you know what? I should do that. So this is me lining my stockings. And I take the template for the back of the stocking and I make a second backing with extra felt that I purchased by myself. It doesn't come with the kit. So if you want to add extra felt, you'll have to purchase it separately. And one of the pieces I will use as a backing and the other piece I will use as a lining. So we're going to use the thinner piece as the lining here. And I believe the thinner piece is what came with the kit. And you can tell it's thin because you can really see through it. So I figured I'd use the kit felt to line my stocking and then the felt that I bought as the backing. And that way it looks nicer and it's a little more sturdy. So I like to pin all the way around and then I do trim it too. So, sorry, I'm out of frame. Gosh, I was usually pretty good about staying in frame, but I'm not in this one. You can see I'm cutting around it. So sometimes I pin it, sometimes I don't. In this case, I just decided to hold it and kind of just trim off excess felt that was just too big. Because you want the lining to be a little bit smaller than your front. And that way, when you put your backing piece on, you're not sewing through 3 layers of felt, you're just sewing through 2. So I'm just trimming this back here. And then I will show you how to put the lining in. And everybody lines differently. I know some people use a cotton lining, which is great. I don't have time for that. So I just decide to line the back of my work just so that there's something there to protect the stitches and so nothing gets snagged, and it works great for me. And no extra sewing. So I've seen people add the lining and they have to sew it with a machine. No thanks. Although I have seen some pretty cute linings, like the patterns that I see and everything. Finding the pattern that goes with the theme of your stocking. People have time for that. I don't have time for that. So I just use felt. It works the same. Is it as fancy? No, probably not. But I like it. So, all right, here's the lined version of this stocking, and we're gonna add the backing now. And I did forget to mention that I use the blue. So I use the blue to line this with, even though the white is in the back, the blue is what's gonna show. And the blue is the main color in the front. Except for that part, the white top, I will use white for the top. So I'm gonna trim this as I go. And here we have the completed stocking, and it's the same concept. So we're still doing outline stitch all the way around. You can do a blanket stitch if you want. I've seen people do that all the time. It depends on your preference. But here is the finished stocking, completely lined and beautiful. And here is the front. And I'm so happy how it turned out. And I hope you guys liked this tutorial and give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.